Every morning, I would set out to jog along the quiet highway of our small Filipino town. The pre-dawn fog enshrouded everything, painting the world in muted shades of gray. But I never thought much of it, as the fog added a mysterious charm to our little community. One foggy morning, I convinced my friend, Carla, to join me. We set out early, the only sound being our synchronized footsteps on the damp pavement. The fog was so thick that we could barely see more than a few feet ahead. As we approached a roadwork site, the eerie silence was disrupted by the sound of shovels and clinking metal. A group of construction workers was diligently at work, their faces obscured by the thick haze. We nodded to them as we passed, but their eyes remained hidden behind misty veils. We had just started to relax when we heard it, a chilling, high-pitched laughter. It was so sudden and strange that Carla and I froze in our tracks. The laughter echoed through the fog, seeming to come from all directions. It sent shivers down our spines. We turned to the construction workers, but they were still engrossed in their work, not paying any attention to the eerie laughter. Carla and I exchanged nervous glances and picked up our pace, wanting to put distance between us and whatever was out there. The laughter continued, following us like an ominous shadow. It grew louder and more maniacal with each step, and we couldn't shake the feeling that it was drawing closer. Our breaths came fast and heavy as we sprinted up the highway. A dim glow in the fog revealed a nearby hill, and we set our sights on it as our sanctuary. The laughter pursued us relentlessly, now so close that it felt like it was right behind us. We sprinted up the hill, our hearts pounding in our chests. Gasping for breath, we reached the top of the hill and turned to look back. The fog was thick, concealing our pursuer, but the laughter echoed all around us. We huddled together, terrified and unsure of what to do next. Then, out of the fog, a figure emerged. It was a man, dressed in tattered cloths and wearing a sinister grin. His eyes were empty, devoid of any humanity, and his laughter continued, a never-ending loop of torment. Without warning, he lunged at us, his arms outstretched. We screamed and bolted down the other side of the hill. We ran for our lives, the man's laughter still haunting our every step. We reached our town, and the fog slowly dissipated. The man's laughter faded, and he disappeared into thin air. We collapsed on the pavement, gasping for breath and covered in cold sweat. Carla and I never spoke of that morning again, but we knew that something otherworldly had crossed our path. The foggy mornings lost their charm, and we abandoned our daily jogs. To this day, I can't forget the eerie laughter or the man in the fog. The memory still sends chills down my spine. I can only hope that others are more fortunate than us when they venture out on those misty mornings. Advice for the listener. If you ever find yourself in eerie situations like ours, run, find safety, and don't look back. Some encounters are better left unexplained, for the truth can be far more terrifying than imagination. The morning was shrouded in an impenetrable fog. It was a hauntingly still day, as if the world had been hushed by an unseen force. I stood outside our front door, clutching my backpack, feeling an uneasy knot in my stomach. It was my mother's task to drive me to school, and she joined me on the porch, her face etched with concern. "Are you sure you want to go today?" she asked, her voice quivering. I nodded, trying to muster some bravery. I had an important test, and missing it wasn't an option. We entered her car, and as she pulled out of our driveway, the fog swallowed us whole. The world outside seemed distant, and the uncertainty hung in the air like a specter. We approached a four-way stop sign, barely visible through the thick fog. The eerie silence amplified my unease. Then, out of nowhere, a car emerged from a nearby convenience store parking lot, its headlights piercing through the mist. The driver switched on the high beams, blinding us momentarily. My mother's knuckles turned white as she gripped the steering wheel. "What's wrong with them?" she muttered. The mysterious car continued to tail us, its high beams flickering like malevolent eyes in the rear-view mirror. Panic set in as we turned left, attempting to shake our pursuer. But the menacing vehicle followed our every move, unyielding. In desperation, my mother accelerated, her heart pounding as she navigated the foggy labyrinth of our small town. The unnerving pursuit continued, the car now dangerously close to our bumper. It felt like a predatory shadow, lurking, just out of reach. Then, without warning, the car rear-ended us, sending us careening forward. The shock was palpable, my head snapping back as our vehicle skidded to a halt. For a moment, I lost consciousness. When I came to, I was shaken but miraculously unharmed. My mother, however, had a look of sheer terror etched onto her face. We stumbled out of the car, the fog still thick around us. The mysterious car had stopped too, its occupants concealed within. I could hear muffled voices, a sinister whispering, as if they were planning something sinister. "Who are they, Mom?" I stammered. "I don't know," she replied, her voice trembling. "But we need to get out of here." We abandoned our car, leaving it on the roadside, and ran to the nearest house, pounding on the door for help. The fog seemed to thicken as we did, as if it conspired with our pursuers. The homeowner, alarmed by our desperate pleas, called the police. They arrived promptly and searched for the menacing car, but it had vanished into the murk. In the days that followed, we learned nothing about our stalkers. They remained an enigma, a malevolent force lurking in the fog. We never drove to school on foggy mornings again, and the memory of that encounter haunted our dreams. As I share this chilling tale with you, dear listener, my advice is simple. If something feels wrong, don't ignore it. And remember, there are dark mysteries concealed within the veil of the unknown, waiting to haunt those who venture too close. Stay safe, and always be vigilant in the face of the unseen horrors that may lurk just beyond the fog. It was an unusually chilly morning in Florida when my mother and I set out on our daily journey to school. The darkness enveloped the world as we left our home, and an eerie mist hung in the air, shrouding everything in an impenetrable cloak. The fog was so thick that we could only see a few feet ahead. It felt as if the world had been swallowed by an otherworldly force. As we drove down the desolate road, the fog seemed to grow even denser, creating an unsettling feeling of isolation. The only sounds were the soft hum of our car engine and the occasional chirping of distant birds. It was a journey we had made countless times, but that morning, it felt like we were venturing into the unknown. Approaching a four-way stop, the unease in the car grew. Out of the mist emerged a car from a nearby convenience store parking lot, its headlights piercing through the fog like beacons of uncertainty. The car was tailing us closely, its driver flashing high beams, creating an eerie strobe effect. My mother and I exchanged nervous glances. This was no ordinary encounter. The driver behind us was relentless, his high beams glaring into our rearview mirror, blinding us with every flash. We accelerated, hoping to put some distance between us and this persistent pursuer. But he matched our speed, staying uncomfortably close. My heart raced, and I could feel the anxiety building in the pit of my stomach. The car's driver remained hidden behind a shroud of fog, a shadowy figure in pursuit. The silence in our car was deafening, the tension palpable. Desperation set in as we tried to outmaneuver our mysterious pursuer. We took sharp turns, changed lanes, and even pulled onto a side street, but the relentless car stayed on our tail. Panic gripped us as the minutes stretched into an eternity. Who was this person, and what did they want? In a last-ditch effort to escape, we made a bold decision. We headed towards a densely wooded area, a narrow road that led to a dead end. It was our final gamble, an all-or-nothing escape strategy. The fog seemed to close in around us, the trees like looming specters. As we reached the dead end, the car behind us screeched to a halt. For a moment, we were safe, but the silence was shattered by a chilling, mirthless laughter that echoed through the fog. The driver's door creaked open, and a figure emerged, still shrouded in mist. In that instant, the fog seemed to part, revealing a gaunt, pale face, a face contorted into a grotesque smile, one that sent shivers down our spines. The figure stepped into the open, his eyes devoid of humanity. We were face to face with a living nightmare, but before he could advance, the fog swallowed him again. In the blink of an eye, he was gone, leaving us trembling in fear and confusion. The fog slowly dissipated, and we were left alone, shaken but alive. The advice that comes from this eerie encounter is simple yet profound. Sometimes life leads us into the unknown, into situations that test our courage and resilience. When faced with the inexplicable and the terrifying, We must stay true to ourselves and take bold actions to escape the darkness. And remember, sometimes the most unsettling secrets are hidden in the mist, waiting to be unveiled.